Okay, now let's look at the signs of detachment of narcissists. Sign number 1, unwillingness to communicate. Sign number 2, avoidance. Number 3, bait and switch tactic. Deceiving compulsively. Chronic manipulation. Sexual perversion. Jealousy. Delight in the suffering of others. Self-mutilation and speaking curses. Okay, I want to go to the speaking curses first. One of the things that the narcissist and cluster B personality does, rather than just use foul language and profanity, see, that can go right up under the umbrella of curses or speaking curses. He or she may call others lazy or dumb or stupid. See, this is part of the cursing that they speak in order to bring down other people. So speaking curses doesn't just entail speaking profanity or foul language. It also includes putting other people down, even using sarcasm, and also insulting others. Okay, it can be blatantly or with a subtle manner. But speaking curses is something that the narcissist and a cluster B personality does very often. And all of that can go right up under the umbrella of verbal misuse or verbal abuse. Self-mutilation. Some people call individuals who do this cutters, or people who would take objects and inflict pain upon themselves. Narcissists and cluster B personality, some of them do this in order to gain the source supply, to get the attention from others. A lot of narcissists and cluster B personalities, they prefer the negative attention rather than no attention at all. So some of them will inflict pain upon themselves just to get the source supply or the attention from others. Some narcissists and cluster B personalities, they do delight in the suffering of others. They like to inflict pain upon others so they can sit back and just revel in what they think they control. In other words, they like to be the source of your pain and pleasure. They like the sense of control, thinking that they caused you to do something or they caused you to feel a particular way. Narcissists and cluster B personalities, they have a strong sense of entitlement and control. They like to dominate in the relationships. So delighting in the suffering of others is one of the things that they absolutely love to do. They tend to be very jealous. When it comes to sexual perversion, anything that a lot of us find sacred, such as our sexuality, the narcissist and the cluster B personality, they delight in perverting that. Chronic manipulation, that's self-explanatory. Deceiving compulsively or lying compulsively. They can't seem to help it. Okay? Bait and switch. They like to butter people up. They like to set them up just to pull the rug out from under him or her. Avoidance, which goes right into the unwillingness to communicate. A lot of narcissists and cluster B personalities, they like to shun their responsibilities. They definitely don't like to acknowledge that they've hurt someone unless they get the source supply from it. The bottom line is this: the narcissist and the cluster B personality, they're not going to admit any wrongdoing, any mistakes that they've made, such as hurting someone else in a relationship, leaving a string of broken relationships behind. He or she, they're not going to take responsibility for their part in that. So avoidance and the unwillingness to communicate kind of go hand in hand with them. They're going to avoid even showing up to have the conversation, to face issues and challenges in the relationship. They have to pull their weight in the relationship. That means they have to become responsible for their part in the relationship, meaning they have to pull their weight. They have to be mindful of how they show up in the relationship and what they contribute to the relationship. Most narcissists and cluster B personalities, due to their false self-image, they're not going to do that. So again, avoidance and unwillingness to communicate go hand in hand. Also, with the unwillingness to communicate, there's the silent treatment. Okay, I don't think I mentioned that, but they do that one a lot. That's one way that they try to punish others when their false self-image has been challenged. Their false self-image has been threatened. Okay, let's move forward. Tool number 1, reach out and build your support base. You will need a support base in order to deal with the adverse effects of narcissistic abuse. There is nothing wrong with you. Become more open to learning to love yourself better. Okay, so this first tool here, the highlight of this tool is to stop telling yourself that something's wrong with you. See, the narcissist and the cluster personality, that's one way that they play mind tricks on people. They like them to think that there's something wrong with them, or anything that goes wrong in the relationship is somehow his or her fault and not the narcissist. This is a mind trick. So I want to encourage, especially my stars today, to discontinue to tell yourself that there's something wrong with you, because there isn't. Due to the fact that you were in a relationship with the narcissist and the cluster personality means that you have gone through quite the ordeal. See, the dysfunctional relationship with a narcissist and cluster personality is not your typical dysfunctional relationship. To continue to tell yourself that there's something wrong with you is only feeding the narcissist's false self-image. Okay, again, it's a mind trick. Don't continue to allow the narcissist to play with your mind like that. The fact that you were in a dysfunctional relationship with him or her means that you were naturally, more than likely, you were naturally responding to something that's unnatural, which is a dysfunctional relationship with him or her. See, a lot of human beings desire by nature the connection. We're wired that way. Human beings usually want the connection with others. Now, notice I didn't say it had to be a positive connection. And the bottom line is, we're creatures of habit. We tend to gravitate towards what's familiar, even if it's not healthy. Which means, again, we desire the connection, whether it's good or bad. A dysfunctional relationship goes against that. It goes against connecting to other people for healthy reasons, for positive reasons, for balanced reasons, or in a balanced way, or in a healthy way. A dysfunctional relationship encourages people to go against what's natural. So stop telling yourself there's something wrong with you. Tool number 2, keep a shadow work journal. This is a different type of journal, whereas you are not attempting righteous indignation with your thoughts or your feelings or your feelings about narcissistic abuse. With a sense of responsibility, you may choose to express yourself within a constructive and secure environment. Example, role play with a trusted mentor, counselor, or life coach, okay, or etc. Anyone that you may find to be trustworthy, you can do the role play, because you want that constructive outlet. Certain thoughts and feelings are going to come up, and you need that outlet. So with responsibility, you can choose to express yourself in a constructive and a secure environment, which means you're going to do this with somebody you trust. So keeping that shadow work journal, from experience, I can tell you, is a game changer, because you're not going to be worried about your spelling. You're not going to be worried about whether you're hurting someone's feelings or not because of how you feel and what you think about going through narcissistic abuse. You're not going to be worried about that. This is where you really let your hair down. But this is a different type of journal. And you don't have to place pen to pad. You can get a tape recorder and you can record yourself speaking. And you can share this with your therapist. You can share it with your counselor, actually, or you can just keep it for your own personal use. But I would suggest doing this in a constructive manner within a very secure environment. In other words, where you feel safe, where you feel emotionally safe. Okay? And the role play is a great way to do this. Number 3, practice self-preservation, assertion, personal boundaries, and emotional discipline. The narcissist repellent is a real game changer, and this is one that I can attest to. Now, we can't stop the narcissist from attempting to obtain source supply, but the narcissist repellent could absolutely slow them down. The narcissist finds it very difficult to tap into the energy field of people who practice self-preservation, assertion, personal boundaries, and emotional discipline. In other words, this person is really taking care of him or herself. Critical questions. Question number 1. How does your capacity to love others affect you and or the narcissist? Do you value your capacity to love? Do you value your capacity to love? And what does that look like? So that's what the first question really means. This two-part question here. It really helps you to look at how do you love? Okay? Not only do you love others and others benefit that, okay, but how does it benefit you to love certain others? Especially if it's a narcissist or a cluster B personality. How does that benefit you? And do you value your capacity to love? Because a person who values their capacity to love, 9 times out of 10 chances, they're going to be very discreet. They're going to use discretion in how they ration out their love. Because some people, they just claim to love others who really don't deserve their love. So they're only looking, the person who's doing the loving, they're only looking at one side of it. They're looking at how much they love the other person and how the other person may be benefiting from that. And they leave themselves out of that equation. Usually a person who behaves codependently, they tend to do this. They tend to leave themselves out of the equation. I just want to challenge my stars to look at yourself in this for a change. Do you value your capacity to love? How do you benefit from loving other people? Question number 2, what are the conditions that you place on how others love you? How about how you love yourself? Do you love yourself? If so, how? Okay, so this question here is a loaded question. It really, I want to challenge everyone to look at how do you place conditions, if you do at all, on how other people love you. In other words, is it unacceptable the way they express their love to you? Some people may express their love to you in a way that you understand and you resonate. However, there may be others who express their love to you in a way that you don't resonate with. And it doesn't feel like love to you. Yet they swear up and down that they love you. But you don't feel it. You're like, wait a minute, you have a strange way of showing it. Okay, and we've all heard that comment from time to time. You know, somebody may say, well, you have a strange way of showing me how you love me. So this is what this question is about. Do you place conditions on how others love you? In other words, you know, they may love you, but to you, they have a strange way of showing it. So what are the conditions that you may place on how others love you? Now, I'm not saying that if they're abusing you or misusing you, that really means they love you. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm challenging you all to do is to take a look at how, if you have any conditions on how other people love you, what are they? What about how you love yourself? What type of conditions, if any, do you place on that? And not only that, do you really love yourself? And if you do, how do you love yourself? So this is a very deep question about loving yourself and how you may permit others to express their love to you. Third critical question. If you were to switch places with the narcissist and a cluster B personality, are you certain that you would treat you differently than he or she? How do you know? So this is another deep question, one that I've pondered many times. If I were in the place of the narcissist or cluster B personality, would I really treat myself differently? Okay, and how do I know that I would? You ever heard that saying, place yourself in the other person's shoes? This critical question has a little bit to do with that. We all who are not cluster B personalities, we all who do not have a narcissistic personality, it may be a little difficult to place ourselves in their shoes because we really don't know what it's like to have such a personality disorder. What this can help you to do is to take a look at what you are doing to comply to the relationship. So if you were the narcissist, would you treat yourself differently? And how do you know you would? Do you really know that you would? If so, okay, go into detail. How would you treat yourself? This is another way of encouraging you to treat yourself better, to love yourself more. I hope that makes sense, because this critical question here was a real game changer for me, because I started to put it into practice. This is what this third critical question is really about. Looking at somebody else's point of view and asking yourself, would I have done something differently if I were in their situation, if I were in their shoes? Now, this is not to belittle that the custody personality and a narcissist pull shenanigans and they have all types of diabolical tactics for source supply. No, this actually is to help you to look more closely at that and ask this question. If you were in their shoes, would you treat yourself differently? And if so, how so? But not only that, how do you know that you would? How would you treat yourself? Are you really doing that today? Yet, you expect the narcissist and custody personality to do it. Simply put, however you expect somebody to treat you, make sure you're treating yourself just as well, if not better. References and resources. Please look in the description box below for the references and resources. I want to thank everybody for joining me today or tonight. I'm Luminousz Star. Stay tuned for more videos and stay tuned for more vlogs. Also, my stars, thank you so much for your subscription, and thank you for inspiring me to have enough passion to keep this channel Luminousz Star active. Once again, I'm Luminousz Star. Stay tuned for more videos and vlogs.
Our home, incubator of life.